So, if you're into the science of hair restoration, you've definitely heard about growth factors and peptides, right? They're kind of the foundation of all the advanced treatments out there. But there's this really frustrating reality that nobody likes to talk about. Sometimes, even the very best protocols just hit a wall. Today, we're going to dig way beyond the basics to understand why that happens and explore a whole new way of thinking about how to engineer real, lasting hair growth. Let's just dive right into the central question that stumps pretty much everyone, from patients to practitioners. You're using a formula that's backed by science, you're seeing some good initial improvement, and then nothing. It just stalls. So, why does progress hit a plateau? Well, it's a super common experience, and it turns out the reason isn't that the ingredients failed, but that the whole strategy behind them was flawed from the start. And look, this isn't just a feeling people have, it's a recognized clinical fact. The source material we're looking at today just says it outright. Peptide combinations can plateau. This statement is so important because it shifts the focus. It's not about blaming the individual ingredients anymore. It forces us to look at the bigger picture, how they're all being used together. And that leads us to this massive shift in philosophy. The problem isn't about just cramming more ingredients into a bottle. It's about moving from a simple additive approach to a fully orchestrated one where every single component is designed to work together in perfect harmony. Okay, what's so cool about this slide is how clearly it lays out these two mindsets. Over on the left, you've got the additive approach. Think of it like a shopping list. You just grab a bunch of proven ingredients, toss them in a formula, and just hope they all do their own separate thing. But then on the right, you see the orchestrated approach. This model gets it. It understands that the hair follicle doesn't respond to a bunch of individual signals being shouted at it. It responds to a choir, all singing in harmony, a single, powerful grow message from a totally interconnected network. Now, to really get that network, we gotta do a super quick biology refresh. Hair follicles are always cycling through three phases. You've got telogen, which is the rest phase, catagen, that's the regression phase, and then anagen, that's the one we really care about. Anagen is the active growth phase. The whole goal of any good treatment isn't to create new follicles out of thin air, but to convince the ones you already have to get into anagen more often, stay their way longer, and produce much thicker, healthier hair while they're at it. And this is where the standard approach usually starts. Most of the high-end formulas out there are built on what you could call these base 6 peptides. And honestly, for good reason, these are some of the most researched players in hair biology. You've got things like VGF for blood supply, IGF-1 to help extend that growth phase. Together, they create a really solid pro-growth platform. But, as we're about to see, they're kind of an incomplete orchestra. Okay, so if this base 6 platform is so powerful, why on earth do results just stall out? Well, the source material points out that even with this strong foundation, there are 3 critical bottlenecks that just keep popping up, and they effectively put a hard ceiling on your results. Yep, it really boils down to 3 specific roadblocks, 3 major issues that the old shopping list approach just can't seem to get past. Let's break them down one by one. All right, bottleneck number 1, and this one is a huge deal. Think of it like you're driving a car. The base 6 peptides, they're flooring the accelerator, screaming at the follicle to go, go, go. But at the exact same time, there's this powerful biological brake called BMP signaling that's being pushed all the way to the floor. This BMP signal is the follicle's main off switch. The problem is, the standard peptides do absolutely nothing to release this brake. So you're just revving the engine, making a lot of noise, but you're not really going anywhere. Second, even if you manage to get some follicles to kick into gear, you hit this plateau in what they can actually produce. Sure, getting a few more hairs is one thing, but for a real cosmetic difference, you need those hairs to be thick and dense. The base peptides can only push the machinery so hard before it just maxes out. Without backup from other key pathways, you're just never going to get that robust, meaningful thickness. And the third bottleneck? It's all about quality control. You might see more hairs, yeah, but the hairs themselves can be kind of weak or poorly pigmented or just not very durable. This means any improvement you see either doesn't last or it isn't as visually impressive as it could be. You end up with a pretty weak result because the system just isn't built to support the long-term health of the hair. So, how do you solve these 3 massive bottlenecks? This is where the source introduces a totally new framework called ZO. That stands for Zenith of Engineered Organization. It's not about just adding more random ingredients. It's about strategically adding the exact right ingredients to finally complete the biological circuit and create a message the follicle can actually understand. And boom, this slide is the aha moment. It lays out the whole concept perfectly. For each specific bottleneck we just talked about, the ZEO framework proposes a specific targeted add-on. To solve that break problem, you add a BMP antagonist to physically release it. The result? Reliable entry into the growth phase. To smash through that output plateau, you add something called hepatocyte growth factor, or HGF, which just amplifies the signal for thicker hair shafts. And to fix the quality control issue, you add stem cell factor, or SCF, to produce durable, really well-pigmented hairs. You see, this is a targeted engineered solution, not just guesswork. So you can really boil down the entire Zenith strategy into 3 simple, powerful steps. It's a clear logic. First, you release the biological break so growth can actually begin. Second, you amplify that growth signal so the result is thick and cosmetically meaningful. And third, you stabilize that result so the new hair is durable and high quality. It's a complete start-to-finish process. Okay, this all sounds really impressive in a lab, but what does this network-based science actually mean for people who are just trying to get better results? Let's translate this complex biology into what actually matters in the real world. Well, the payoff is basically everything that's been missing from those other approaches. By addressing the entire network, this orchestrated strategy is all about getting more consistent outcomes for more people. And we're not talking about a temporary little bump in hair count. We're talking about durable, long-term improvement. The goal here is results you can actually see and feel. Thicker, pigmented hair that lasts, which ultimately leads to a reduced chance of thinning coming back. And that brings us right to the final and I think the most important takeaway from all of this. The future of advanced hair treatments isn't about finding some new magic bullet ingredient or just making the shopping list of peptides even longer. It's about coherence. It's about finally understanding that hair growth is a network problem and it requires a network solution, a complete, orchestrated biological message that tells the follicle not just to grow, but how to grow well. It's not about louder biology. It's about smarter, better engineered biology.